Hey, I'm Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and welcome to my Seattle real estate news breakdown. In this video, we're going to discuss a recent news article, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts on it. Today's article is titled, and let me read it here, June Real Estate Numbers Tell a Now Familiar Story, Seattle Losing Buyers to Tacoma and Other Outlying Spots. Now, like the article says, and the title hints, this isn't a news story. I spoke about this in a recent video, and we'll link it up here. The Tacoma, we were talking about the Tacoma real estate market. I think that was the last news breakdown that I did. In this article, though, the author Paul Roberts with the Seattle Times kind of starts off saying, in June, the median home price in Seattle fell to $781. I believe this is counting condos. It's a little different than the median sales price I shared in my most recent update, a 3.9% drop from June 2018. So prices are down a little bit, according to the multiple listing service data. That monthly median was also down about 0.5% from comparable figures in May. So we're essentially kind of in the same spot we were last year, following that trend down a little bit. King County overall median prices dropped 2.3% in June, and from that same period last year at $695. So what we're seeing here, and I shared about this in my last market update, is that prices are down a little bit year over year in Seattle. Now this article is going to tell us that that's not the case in some of the other surrounding markets. So let's kind of dive into what they've been saying. The author here says, by contrast, home prices in outlying regions, especially north and south of the Seattle area, continue their recent escalations, And some of these markets we're going to talk about is, first one's Pierce County here. So in Tacoma and Pierce County, the median home price in June climbed to $376.50, so $376,500, representing a 7.3% year over year increase. And it was a 1.7% increase over even last month in May. Now, the same thing is happening down in Skagit County. To the north, we're seeing a higher demand, and in June, the article says the median home price increased to $380,000, an 11.8% jump from 2018, but down slightly from May. So the biggest, those are huge numbers, right? Those are the same kind of numbers we were talking about in 2017, 2016 in Seattle. What's interesting, though, is the agent that was interviewed here, he talks about the commute being the biggest factor, that if people are willing to put up with the commute, then they might be able to get a better price. And what we're seeing is people are like, yeah, I'll take that commute. I'll take an hour-long commute each way to be able to get a more affordable house. And I think that's a big reason that we're seeing those changes, because people are being priced out of some of these other neighborhoods. Nothing new, but still worth talking about. The article does highlight a few neighborhoods in Seattle which have seen a little bit more dramatic drops in prices or home values. And some of those neighborhoods include Queen Anne, Magnolia area, the Ballard, Green Lake area, and also Redmond over on the east side. And Redmond's down about 10.2% from last year. So that's a big drop in prices. But like we just said, some of these other neighborhoods or areas on the outlying areas are significantly going up in value. Now, another interesting thing that this article highlights is that home prices in general, though, since 2017, so if you go back 2 years in Seattle, are up significantly. So the numbers they're sharing here, this is not surprising, but we'll talk about King County as a whole here. The June's median sales price of $695 in King County is 23% higher than the median sales price in 2017. So we're talking about a slight drop year over year, but 23% up over 2 years. And that's the price then 2 years ago in June was $565. So relatively significant. Some of the other neighborhoods too, the article highlights some of the more luxury neighborhoods, if you want to call it, exclusive, another way to put it, over in Bellevue and also in Mercer Island, so kind of by Lake Washington. These neighborhoods are way up. So Mercer Island's up 14.9% year over year, and West Bellevue is up 16% year over year. And part of that might be the exclusivity of the neighborhoods. Like if you want to get into those neighborhoods, you're going to have to pay for it. But they seem to have been kind of weathering the storm a little bit better than some of the other neighborhoods. The last thing I want to highlight in this article is the rising cost of building down in the Tacoma area. And this is pointed out in the article, and the quote here is, between the rising costs of land, material, and labor, the median cost to build a new home in Pierce County is above $500,000, which is around $150,000 more than the median price of an existing home. So in the city of Seattle, we're finding that new construction houses are a lot more expensive than the median sales price. And what we're now starting to see in Tacoma is the same thing. And what happens is if you're then building homes, you're building for a different audience than the median audience. And I think the biggest problem, and Tacoma is going to face their own problems. That's kind of how the article ends, so we don't need to read that. But Tacoma is going to have its own set of issues unless they can go quick with trying to provide affordable housing. Because what's happened in Seattle is that a lot of the more affordable housing is gone. When you're building a new housing, which Seattle has needed to do, they've been building a really expensive product, either townhouses that are really small but really expensive still, or giant houses that are significantly more expensive than the average family can afford. And what happens there is that you just keep driving the prices up. You're not really helping with the price because you're building a new product. And really, the developers have had a tough time because how can you provide an affordable price on new construction when it's so expensive to build? So that's kind of been that problem. And I think the city is really trying to do some cool things with the new laws on ADUs and backyard cottages, and kind of relaxing some of the laws around owner occupancy versus rentals. And we talked about that in another video here recently. And I'll link that one up too here in the description, and we'll put it up here on the screen so you can kind of see it. But Tacoma is going to have to do some similar things, I think, in the long run, because what happens is you have a whole bunch of people, more supply, or more demand, and you don't have enough supply. It's going to drive the prices up. And we're already seeing that in Tacoma and some of these outlying areas now. And they're going to essentially end up facing some of the same problems Seattle's facing. So my hope is that the city of Seattle can continue to pioneer and hopefully do a good job of setting an example for what it could look like to increase density in a sustainable way and also provide some more affordable housing. And then hopefully some of these other areas will be able to model after that as well. So those are my thoughts. Again, not really surprised to be reading this article or hearing it. It's pretty straightforward. The surrounding areas around Seattle have significantly increased in value, and it's mainly been because of the price growth here, right? So people are like, well, I'm going to go look elsewhere and find something more affordable, which makes total sense. But at the same time, there might be some other problems created with that, just like they were in Seattle. So thank you so much for watching my news breakdown here. I know you got some value out of it, so please consider subscribing to my channel. You're going to see other news breakdowns, monthly market updates, and some of the other cool videos on the channel. And if you made it to the end, give it a thumbs up and drop a comment. Bye for now.